Hello, and welcome to Garblag Games. I'm Pete, and tonight I'm just doing a bit of I suppose impromptu is probably the right word, impromptu Patreon stream. We want to give some more back to our lovely patrons who are kind enough to support our channel, and we'll probably free this up for other viewers down the road at some point. But tonight, really, it's just for patrons. So it'll be a slightly different format to normal. There's no actual play, obviously. It's just me. And I'll be seeing if people want to come and chat with me. So, yeah, we'll see. So I thought I wanted to talk about three areas tonight. So I wanted to just go over the Heroic Deeds beta PDF, whichever way you want to say it, and talk through that a little bit because I'm super proud of where it's got to. Over 100 pages of role-playingness and stuff, and I wanted to talk about play-by-post rules and see if I can put down a few play-by-post rules, because our lovely patrons here have signed up for a patron only play-by-post campaign on the there we go, so much game. Hello Lewis, how you doing? Some patrons have signed up for our play-by-post game, and I know I've been keeping them dangling for a while, and I want to start it off and start getting into it. So talk a bit about play-by-post, how I want to break down where certain conversations happen and how we do turns and all that kind of stuff. I haven't figured it all out yet. Might be a stream of consciousness, might just be an interesting conversation, and some people in chat might be able to help me with that. And then we've been playing the cool Electric State, so I wanted to just give a little update on that and where it's going, and no spoilers, but talk about running it, because it's quite an interesting setup for a campaign. A bit different. And not when you sort of lift the hood. But very interesting. Very interesting. But fascinating. Curious. Yeah, I thought that'd be really good. I found myself today pondering about streaming and what I should do. And I was thought, hey Millie, I was going to do something around actually prepping the next session of Electric State, but I thought that might be a bit spoilery, so we'll just talk about what happened in the first episode at the end a little bit, and then depending on the time and how I'm feeling and how many of these I've had, I might play a game, do something fun that's probably a bit more visually fun for you guys to round the evening off. Who knows? We'll see. Very cool. I saw a really weird advert the other day that hopefully other people find really strange, but it was for Apple Intelligence. Very clever. Do a spin on AI, and it was a guy, and it kind of struck me, just someone who works in an office environment. I found it quite entertaining. A guy in a meeting, he's clearly not paying attention, he hasn't got a clue what's going on, and someone says, hey guy, do you want to dig into the presentation? And he looks completely embarrassed, slides out of the room, uses his AI to summarize the whole slide deck into 3 bullet points, and then rolls back in the room and says, hey, let's get into the presentation, or whatever it is. And I thought, is that a selling point? It's kind of weird. I know what they're trying to do with AI stuff, but that just seemed a bit weird. That was like, you can not pay attention to your job and get away with it. Here you go, have this. It just felt like a really odd thing. Anyway, sorry. I was watching House earlier. I've been binging House because I've never watched it before, and I love Hugh Laurie, and it's really good. I like it. Some of the episodes, yeah, some are really good. And he's very good as House, obviously. But there's been loads of these Apple adverts in between on Amazon Prime, So it was just kind of stuck with me and kind of stuck out. Yeah, Lewis. Hey, I still didn't do any work and don't know what's going on. It's just this kind of, yeah, I don't know. Everything becoming surface level. It's just a bit disappointing. I wrote an article to myself called the Fall of the Office, but it's a bit wanky and stupid, but yeah. Yeah, the house is good fun. It's interesting. I like when they switched it up and they brought in the different people vying for the roles, and he like tried out a whole bunch of people, and the different characters that emerged and kind of tragedy that followed after that. So it was a good. I thought it was a shame. Series 4, I think it was during the writer's strike, so it's cut short, and you could kind of tell. So that 2007, 2008, just every TV show that was running at that time was just like took a left turn, right? Famously Lost and all that kind of thing. Anyway, so that was just where my brain was going today. Now I have Mondays off. It's really nice not to have that Sunday night dread. But I have just double Monday night dread now of a Tuesday, where I'm kind of thinking, oh my God, they've all had a day without me. What stupidity has happened while I've been away? No, my team are really good. It's just everybody else that I'm worried about. Although some of them might see this at some point. I don't know. They know I've got a YouTube channel and all this nonsense, so they find it all entertaining. So that's cool. Yeah, just strange where your brain goes sometimes. Like the state of the I mean, I put it in the Discord, right? The state of the men's loos at work was disgusting one day, and it just kind of set me off, and I sat down and wrote a long, aggressive, sweary poem about it, which was fun. But yeah. So anyway, that's what I've been up to outside of this, as well as looking after the boys. You know, having 2 boys is challenging, especially when you have physical pain from a surgery and all they want to do is wrestle you and fight you. So that's also been taking up my time. And my youngest being autistic adds an extra lens on it. So it's all fun and games in the Garblag household. But we've had some fun Lego today. I built a robot, a very crap robot, and then my son Lars decided to upgrade it, and he built this walking thing this is the head here that I had on top, but I think it's some kind of laser cannon, and he's built in a little grappling hook. He's like, Dad, I've upgraded it with a grappling hook. So that was pretty cool. That was tonight's fun. And then we did a bit of reading and a bit of homework. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about my kids on air. That will send everyone away, right? Everyone will be running for the hills. So, anyway, all of that's to say, there's a lot going on in my life, and I've decided that it's also a good thing to create my role-playing game, run a Discord server, run a YouTube channel, try and do a play-by-post thing, and then also run a game on top. I was really missing running role-playing games, a game, doing something in the role-playing world, and I was suddenly very aware that I was creating a role-playing game, but not playing one at the same time, which I think is a useful thing to do, even if it's not the game that you're designing, but to be actively flexing those muscles whilst writing about flexing those muscles. I thought that was a good thing to do. So the Electric State is it's a lot of fun. It's very interesting, but we will go into that a bit later. So, ta-da! Heroic Deeds Beta, yay! I'm not going to go on about this forever because I know not everyone is as into Heroic Deeds as I am, but I'm very into it and I'm very happy with how it's going. And from here, the good thing is from here, I can see a flight path, even maybe a 12 slide PowerPoint presentation about about the future of Heroic Deeds, where not only can I see how I'm going to finish this book, which is great, and all the additions that I need to flesh this out around the core principles and the core sections that we have, but also at least 5 following products that I could create to add extra pieces, add more locations, more monsters, and more archetypes and more ancestries to the World Mountain. So I'm in a good place in my head with it as a product. However, I am considering that once this is done, to do a couple of things which are a bit more not mainstream, because I'm not talking about writing 5th edition stuff, but I might look into writing a Mothership module and writing a Shadow Dark adventure, just to broaden my bibliography and to attract some different people. And they're 2 games that I really like and I've played, and I can see, the strengths of those games and how you could make something for them. Sci-fi horror, it's very much a big thing of mine, and Shadow Dark, obviously crawling around in dungeons. There's some dungeons in Heroic Deeds, and I might be able to repurpose some maps to produce adventures for Shadow Dark, which might help. So I'm not stopping Heroic Deeds. This thing has to be finished. It must be so. But I think after I've written this book and printed it and got it out there, I'm going to potentially, I'm still not 100%, because I need to just have a think about those ideas, potentially branch out for a little bit, maybe attract a bigger audience. All you lovely people supporting me is fantastic, but if I ever want Heroic Deeds to sort of go any further, or I want all of this to go any further, then I need to be a little bit savvy as well. So with all that in mind, I'm very happy with this game. I think it works. I think the new levels I've created are strong. I think the pillars of the game are going to be fun. There's things for everyone to do, and it kind of is creating that feeling of that style of game that we all think we played, but none of us actually probably played. But anyway, so yeah, the Heroic Deeds PDF, I have shared that with paying patrons and everybody on the Kickstarter and BackerKit, I believe. I think I did all those 3 things. But anyway, most people have got it. I have, and at Millie's advice, and I didn't know why I didn't think of this myself, but thank you, Millie. I've set up a bit.ly so I can track how many people have clicked on it. And so far, 57 people have got the beta PDF through that link. So there you go, and that goes to the Google Drive, and you can download that document there. Copy, and let me just put that in the chat here. There you go. That's in there, in case you want to read along at home. And if you're a patron, why haven't you got it already? But yeah, so Heroic Deeds beta PDF. What I had. Excuse me, no scrolling. What I wanted to do is, and I don't know if you can see my pointer here very well. You can just about see it on the screen there, can't you? Maybe we should make this. Make this a bit bigger. Here we go. Yeah, that'll do. I'll move it up, and I'll have to turn scrolling back on. Let's enable scrolling. There we go. So previously on Heroic Deeds, the Quick Start book, which I've got a few over on the shelf over there, was 50 pages, but a lot of that has been rewritten. So I think out of the 103 pages in this document, probably about 70 of them are, 75 are probably either brand new or rewritten. And the kind of introduction and heroes part to about there is probably untouched. And then the archetypes, the intro page, there's a few little changes around some of the lore elements. But spell, is that wielder wrong? Okay, I was wielder always throws me off. But again, a lot of that's different. And then all of this stuff here really is either massively changed or completely brand new, right? And these are the 4 pillars, the important parts of the game, the structure of this experience that I'm trying to create at the table for the Games Master, who I'm still thinking of calling the Herald, because I quite like the idea that the Herald is kind of helping you tell the story. But yeah, we'll see. Excuse me. Combat, exploration, journeys, and downtime. We're going to have in there running the game. So we're going to have a bit that talks about each of the other sections. So there'll be a bit about creating characters. There'll be a bit about advice on archetypes. There'll be a bit on skills, trappings, combat, exploration, and how the Game Master should interact. And a bit more direct stuff like say things like, do things like, rather than just like, quixotic advice. So we've got our credits down here. So Douglas Derry has done the beautiful new cover, which I am super happy with. We've got our squad of heroes. They're about to do a deed by fighting this dragon, although this is a good dragon, but it looks like they're, it's behind you. I wanted to show all the characters. I thought it was pretty cool. And they are based on the artwork of Mustafa Bakir, who's done the iconic characters for me for the book. And then these have been interpreted in Douglas's style. The full spread, which would cover this face, which would probably be a good thing right now, shows the World Mountain and some ships and the city of Marastabar down below. And what you can see up here at the top, which is captured really nicely, is the stalactites of the underhang of Glorim. So it hints, if you just looked at that, you might go, what is going on there? Ooh, now let's have a look in the book. So this was the old cover. I kept it. This is Dean Spencer's lovely stock art, which is throughout the whole book, which is fine throughout the whole book, but I couldn't live with it on the front cover. It's beautiful, but I saw too many things with this image on them for me to feel happy with it as the front cover anymore. So this is pretty largely unchanged. I've changed the spacing, and I've changed how titles sit with the body of the text. Minor things like that. I was looking through it and I was realizing that it's kind of it's Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay First Edition inspired, mixed with a bit of AD&D Second Edition color plates, followed by black and white, or it was blue. It had blue in it. Text. So playing heroic deeds, same as the basics, same again. We've got the World Mountain in there with my little drawing. It's crappy quality there because I'd moved the location of the artwork and forgotten about it, and it did its best to remember what it looked like in design, which is quite cool that it does that. But I needed to actually reference the image correctly, and I want to change that now anyway. It was fine for a while, but I need to get an artist to actually render the World Mountain. So we've got our heroes, anatomy of the character. There was a few changes to stats, so how you figure out your defenses. Speed is in there, and is determined by your ancestry now. One of the big things I had before was your speed was either your guile or your vigor, whichever was higher, how quick and cunning you are, or how powerful you are. But that led to some characters, not looking at anyone, Rob, whose movement was 2 inches on 2 squares on a map, and it was really debilitating. So I've moved to a fairly bog standard speed by ancestry. Everyone's got 4, apart from a few who've got 5, because they're big or long-legged, like elves. That's the only benefit elves will get. Dwarves are the bad boys in my game. There's going to be more on ancestry. So we talk about deeds. We all know what deeds are now. We're creating a character. This is a difficult section to write. And one of the things I'm trying to do in here is actually just give some straightforward advice on how to make a character and some of the things to think about while you're doing it. Some books write these things as if it's fiction or as if it's prose, or they don't actually give you very clear step-by-step instructions. Lots of games are very good at this, so it's not super difficult. But what I have included is things like this, the legend example here, which you can see in this little side scroll. Mustafa has kindly done me some little insert artwork for these little scrolls, which I think are fantastic, and I love having a little bit like that. Oh, okay, George, you're right, you've got an example. And Lewis is creating his character. And first rolls 12 4-sided dice, so it just takes you through the steps. And then we've got the legend steps. I was born, I trust, the world taught me. You may spot that it's a different format. That's deliberate, to see if anyone says it's a different format. I like that one, not that one. No one said anything like that so far, so we'll see. It's cool. I don't know if it's a bit much, but it's cool. Whereas these are kind of clearer, but a bit duller. I'm not sure if anyone in chat's got an opinion right now between those two formats and which you prefer. Someone's probably going to say somewhere in between. And then a brief pitch for each archetype, just so you've got that kind of one page where you can say, what does that one do again? What does that one do again? And the archetypes have their own sections. So much like the Player's Handbook for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, but also slightly more, each archetype will have its own section, and in that section will be all of the talents and special abilities. So for example, with Rune Wielders, all of the spells are in that section. Thank you, Millie. You like the black box one. That's good to know. Dark Delvers have their relics. That's their special thing, right? So everyone's got their special thing and their talents, their deeds. It's all in their section, so that you can just go to that part of the book, and then everything you need for your character is there. Trappings are kind of universal, so they're in their own area. That's separate, as are skills, right? But they're general things that you'll only pick up. You know, when you pick up a sword, you write down what it does. You now know what your sword does. But making choices about your character, I wanted to have all of that in one space. And they're not huge, right? So there aren't 400 spells, and there aren't 400 feats. So far, each archetype's got 12 talents. Is that right? Yep, 12 talents. And I think the Rune Wielder has 15 spells. I don't want there to be too much stuff. I'm trying to go for a level of complexity between, you know, in kind of middle ground, whereas Dungeons and Dragons it's not super complicated, but there's lots of elements to it now. You could then further along that path talk about Pathfinder 2, where there's lots of choices. And the problem I felt with Pathfinder 2 was suddenly a new book come out and it's got 800 things in that book, and then another book came out and there's 800 things in that book, and it became fractal. It was kind of, it felt like a bit too much content, which sounds like a weird thing to say. Whereas you go fully the other way and you've got Shadow Dark, where you're like, okay, there's some stuff and that's it. I think that's too bare bones, right? It would be great fun, and I think Shadow Dark's a really fun game. We ran a 2-parter on the channel. It was fun. There was lots going on. I used one of my maps, and that's, for me, would have a challenge around longevity. Not that I get to play long games anymore, but some people out there somewhere, I don't know who you are, but keep doing it. You play the long games, campaigns. It's amazing. And what I'm trying to do with Heroic Deeds is provide a game that can live for a while, and you can develop a character in the mechanics of the game, but also in the story and the narrative. Anyway, so then we've got Ancestries. Now, what I've done for this beta is to summarize on one page. Millie, I know you love campaigns, and now that I have this, I want to run a campaign on the channel. Obviously, I'd love to run a campaign in the real world, but I also want to run a campaign with the lovely people who are playing Red Hand of Doom and Ad Million. So basically, I've done a table of ancestries for now, but each ancestry will have at least a half-page summary of their physicality, their major civilizations and population centers, and then a bit about their faith. Which of the gods, because all the gods are real, and everyone knows the gods are real. There's no believing gods are real. They are real. Like, we've seen it. It's happened. But you can have a favourite god, right? So you can go, yeah, well, I spend my time farming, so I'm going to pray to Seracron more than Maytalin, who I might pray to if someone were to steal something from my house. I might want revenge on them. That kind of thing. Millie's crying. So for now, what I've done is you've got your ancestry, which home layer it's from. You don't have to be from that layer yourself, but as in that this ancestry came from here. A defense boost, your speed, and the languages. And the languages here, I've got the table of languages at the top, and then in frequency order, you don't have to pick them in that order, and you don't have to pick those, but to give you as well an idea of which creatures relate with which through this language table. I'm trying to kind of help people kind of discover, oh, hang on, gnomes speak Vangic, right? Okay, Vangic is the detailed and technical language of the gnomish underhang. Okay, makes sense. But then Runic, okay, that's the language of the dwarves. Cool, fine. Then they next speak Sylvan. Oh, that makes sense, because they're basically dwarves that were not maliciously, but manipulated and changed by the Verdants. Okay, makes sense. Erelosian, that's the local free city language of Pargranin. Okay, and then Draconic. Ooh, why do they speak Draconic? How could it be that they're interested in astral creatures? Oh, they're inventors, and they want to do all these kind of weird things. So it kind of hopefully adds a little flavour. But then I will, when the book comes out, there'll be at least half a page, and I am currently thinking about ancestral deeds and how there may be things that you can do as a gnome that have a longer deed track, but you could unlock some ancestral based ability. But I'm thinking about that one. Then we go into the archetypes, Battle Rager, and I've reformatted it slightly, so the benefits section I've called out more explicitly in a box to draw the eye, and an easy reference point. You're not searching in a block of text for like where was the attribute that gets boosted, that kind of thing. I wanted to have it very clear there. And then with each of the archetypes, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but they have their special thing is in a blue box, and this blue is the AD&D second edition front cover outlining the white text blue. A little nostalgia in there. It's not the brighter blue text that they had inside the book because I tried that and it didn't look good as a full box of that colour. This darker blue worked better. But trying to pull on those old school roots whilst having a more modernised version of a game. So each archetype has starting talents, which gives them things that they can do, which are funky and cool. The Battle Rager can charge and roar. And the roars are the Battle Rager's special thing. And these aren't just like normal roars. They tap into the magical nature of the world. Or they are detailed and horrific and terrifying or psychic. And whilst when you roar, it lasts a number of rounds equal to 1 plus the successes rolled on a perform check. So the Battle Rager's two main attributes are where are we? Vigor and Psyche. Psyche, the mental training they go through to ignore fear and give themselves completely over to battle. And they need to have the perform skill because they have to scare the shit out of people. So they make a perform roll, and how well they roll is not the effect, it's how long it lasts. And then a roar does a certain thing where it gives you a boost to an attribute, or that might be a primary attribute or a defense attribute. And then it also means that every turn, the start of your turn, you remove one of a particular kind of condition. So you become like fortified against certain attacks. Normally, removing a condition happens at the end of your turn, so that it has at least a turn to affect you. Whereas with a Battle Rager, if you got blinded 1, for example, and you had Demon's Howl on, the start of your turn, that blinded condition would come off and you would be back to your normal self, ready for action. And then we have the deeds, and these are the format of the deeds. So you've got the name, and there's a few formatting errors. When you're in InDesign, one of the things I've realised is that the look of these boxes in InDesign while you're editing and everything is slightly different than when you output it as a PDF. And sometimes I can't tell the difference. So I need to just be a bit more careful about, have I done the side lines on that table? No. Or borders? Yes. Okay, right. So this gladiator one up here in the top right needs to not have lines down the sides, just horizontals, just for the style. And you've got the track, you've got what you need to do, and you've got the reward. Easy deeds. And then we've got the talents with more lovely artwork from Dean Spencer in here. And we've got a new format of the talents, so they're easy to read, easier to use. Nice clear title. Face me. Oh, this, I like this one here. Bloody grin. Your enemy's weapon smashes you in the face, drawing blood. You lick your lips and give them a maniacal grin in return. After taking damage from a melee attack, make a performance check. If successful, that should say perform check. If successful, the enemy gains a number of frightened conditions equal to the successes rolled. So that's a reaction. So one thing I've added in, reason to call it out, is more reactions. The reason I've done that is because it means that the players will be more attentive during combat, because they'll be looking for these situations where these talents can come into play and give them a benefit and an advantage over their opponents. So reactions are more of a thing, and also there are now exploration based ones. So we have exploration talents like bend bars, lift gates, or an old D&D throwback. You've spent many hours practicing lifting, pushing and pulling heavy things, which can prove useful from time to time. So in the exploration phase, when you use an overcome action, overcome is when there's an obstacle and you're trying to overcome an obstacle. You gain a die when using might to overcome barrier obstacles. You're very muscular, the muscularity, and you are very good at lifting heavy things, so that comes in handy. So these allow characters to have a little extra during different phases. So we've got some journey roles as well. So orator, no one has more gruesome, daring and bawdy stories to tell at the campfire than a Battle Rager. So journey phase on a hardship roll. Gain a die when using perform to reduce the hardship of a journey. And hardship damages you when you get to the other end. Yeah, chest burster. Do you like that? I don't know why I put that in. I'm a big fan of Alien, so I just put in chest burster. Sometimes you don't have time for a Dark Delver to work their magic, and you need to smash, loot, and run. It's about kicking in a chest, not. You haven't had noodles. So yeah, so that's cool, and I've thrown in some of those because I want to have little callbacks, and these make me happy more than anything else. And really, it's for me more. It's only 100 people have bought into this, so it's not like some big blockbuster. But I wanted, I just had some things in there like Mighty Blow is Strike Mighty Blow from Warhammer as well. So there's that kind of thing. So anyway, we've got the Dark Delver who has relics, which are one of my favourite things in the game, especially the provisional bilocator, which allows you to appear in 2 places at once and attack from both locations if you want to. Hey Scott, welcome to the chat. And I just put in some pictures. And these have a minor action, which is kind of a passive one, and then a major function, which you have to activate and use vitality for. And that's the vitality thing, remember, is one of the key mechanics of heroic deeds. We have to spend to do certain things. And then Dark Delver talents, we're tapping into those things again, where find remove traps is a thief skill from Dungeons and Dragons, which I've poached. Those are words you can write down, right? But one thing to note is at 3rd level, everybody gets two things. They get a hero talent, and the hero talent says, when you reach 0 wounds, you are not dead. When the party returns to Emberwatch, Hyalar heals your wounds as normal. Your convalescence is all-consuming, and you don't get a downtime activity. So in the first 2 levels of the game, you can die, right? But your character's so new and basic that's not really a problem. Once you get to level 3 onwards, you don't die. You go back, you just miss a downtime activity. So there is a penalty to dying, but I wanted to make it more fun. Instead of Mighty Blow, the Dark Delver gets Mighty Shot. We've got a few other things in here. Lightning Reflexes, that's from Wafrup. And then Move Silently, got that in there. Sneak Attack, Tumbling, but I've given them my own spin, and they're all relevant to the ability that they're from. So it's thematic, right? And I wanted to have some cool names. I didn't want them to be over the top, or something that you wouldn't want to say more than once. You see some games where it's like, I don't know, exploding 5-point pressure technique, and you're like, that's cool. But like, if you used it every round and you said it every round, it would start to become like, I'm using the super cool special thing again. Whereas with this, they're quite cool. They've got a little bit of fluff underneath, but they're not so ridiculous that you feel a bit silly saying them repeatedly. And this image, when I had that image as the iconic image, but we've now got his fix as our gnome Dark Delver. This is before he gained his weight. But this image, I love this image of this guy crawling out of this hole. He's got a scar on his head. This is like 1st level rogue who didn't find the trap. I think it's fantastic. And I'll make sure to put different ancestry images in there just to mix it up. So Lightbearer went through a bit of an overhaul. Blessings have had quite a bit of a change. Some of them not. There are still 3 spheres. They still have different abilities. I've changed a couple of them. You still summon your locus and a blessing. All blessings have this trigger, action 1, cost 2 vitality and area effect, aura 2 of the divine locus. You're right, Lewis. His fix is the iconic Dark Delver all Dark Delvers can aspire to. So, I'm not going to dwell too much on each of these. The Lightbearer is less about healing and is more about kicking the crap out of evil things and boosting everyone around them. I didn't want it to be that you are, oh, I'll do cure light wounds, 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 right? This is more, and remember the gods are everywhere, right? And people know the gods are real. The Lightbearer is someone who is basically a paladin more than a cleric, I would say. Although it does get a healing word. This is one of mine. Hold evil. No darkness will escape your light. You will alone. Your will alone will hold the servants of darkness in place, so that you may destroy them. Basically, puts a restraint. You have to hold monsters kind of spell. And some abilities and spells, I didn't want them to have turn undead because I thought, oh, that makes them run away. Now they need to hold them so we can beat the crap out of them. We got lay on hands. You got to have lay on hands in there. We've got prayer. They got mighty blow. They're tough warriors who have magical abilities, right? That are about boosting people. Oathsworn. Oathsworn, I had a bit of a change. I've messed up the layout on this one pretty bad. This was part of that thing where I couldn't tell which line was real and which was in my mind. No, which was in the InDesign table, but I couldn't tell the difference between a thin line and a imaginary table line that was showing me where the edges of the table cells were. So anyway, one of those things. So these, I trimmed it down. I had loads of techniques and it was kind of crazy. And I've reduced the number of these, but they're all super cool. And these have slightly more funky names because they are like Deadly Sweep, you know. I was thinking a little bit more like The Princess Bride, where they're doing Bonetti's Defense and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't want to put particular people's names on them, so I've gone with these. And then the Oathsworn's talents are half damage, half helping. So the Oathsworn's about getting in the way and helping people. So it has like the ability intercept. You stay light on your feet in order to stay one step ahead of the enemy and dominate the battlefield. So this is a reaction. As I said, reactions are more important now. When an enemy within 25 so 25 feet or 5 squares announces a move action, you may take a free move action before they make their move. So you move into, you can reposition basically. You see them go and you're like, shit, they're running for the room builder. I'm going to move in the way, that kind of thing. So the idea is that you would get in close to them and stop their movement maybe, or back up whoever they were going towards, that kind of thing. Exploration actions as well, like guard. You have been taught how to clear buildings and dungeons, checking doors and corners as you progress. Doors and corners, people. When you take the watch action, if a combat is initiated in the same exploration turn, spend 1 vitality and select 1 party member to recover 2 vitality. So not only the Lightbearer can heal people or help them recover vitality, this is kind of like, don't worry people, we're safe, I've got it all covered, they're coming, yeah, they're coming, and someone's like, okay, I'm ready, yeah, they're kind of G'd up by your preparedness, that kind of thing. And then a few other, a cool reaction over here, weak point. At the vital moment, you spot a weakness in the enemy's defenses and alert your companion to the exploit. When a party member is about to roll melee damage, they may ignore their target's armor for that roll, which is pretty crazy, right? But that's a higher level ability, and it's kind of like, it's a reaction, so you can use it once around. It uses vitality. Room Wielder. Spells, and unfortunately the spells look a bit messy because I copy-pasted the techniques from the Oathsworn, and all the bloody cells were wrong. But anyway, this is why you need like a team and not just one person making a book. Okay, so I had the big change for Room Wielder is Mind Magic has gone. I'm going to put Mind Magic in a separate archetype. I made that decision. That's coming later. So I wanted to keep them to like breaking the rules of reality kind of thing, altering things, dimensional magic, or summoning things out of thin air, right? So I've split it down to 3 forms of spells: alteration, dimension, and invocation. And I wanted to have dimensional magic because I think it's fucking cool. Like slipstream, it allows you to create a slipstream in front of someone so that if they move into it, they move faster, right? So it's like inertia's, reversed or something, and it's all doubled, right? But you could use that. You could put it behind someone, and then you could push them and give them a forced move, and then they'd get sucked through the slipstream, and that might, for example, take them off an edge of a cliff or something. Having Rob playing Chothog in the Red Hand of Doom was really cool because he wanted to, and very much from a player perspective, but also a gaming and testing my game perspective. It was very helpful that he tried different spells in different ways to see if he could break it or have fun, right? So some really good combos of spells that came out of it. So there's some spells that I definitely retained. I got rid of his favourite, which was Friend to Foe, but that will return later. So spells are more powerful depending on how many actions you use to cast them. And when you start off, you can use a scroll instead of spending vitality. So if you write a scroll, you've written it all down. You don't have to just tear the magic out of yourself and cast a spell. If you use a scroll, no vitality cost, but at first level you can only cast a 1 action spell with a scroll, right? And then as you level up, you get different, you upgrade, and then you can do an action 2 and then an action 3, right? So they have a couple of mechanics that are interesting. And in the talents, again, I've changed the talents. The big thing that, sorry, just scroll back up for a moment there. In the first level, there we have the Invoker, Transmuter, and Topologist, which basically makes certain schools of magic, forms of magic, cheaper for you. And then in the third level, we have the Celestial Rune, the Temporal Rune, and those two are persistent runes you can summon that then affect all the spells you use of a certain type. So the Celestial Rune makes you more accurate, the Temporal Rune makes things last longer, and then there's more later on that will come, so you can, like, in one turn you could summon the Celestial Rune, and then you're using a thing that's shooting someone, so you could then fire your thing and gain a die on your roll to hit them, which then might convert into more damage. That kind of thing, boosting yourself. The Rune Wielder is quite a self-centered kind of character, as all wizards are, right? And then the reactions they got. So Dancing Lights, thrown that one in. When an enemy within 45-9 announces a ranged attack, you may use Dancing Lights to increase the difficulty of that attack by 2. So you're like, and it doesn't say a ranged attack at you, so it could be somebody else, but you summon some lights and it distracts them. And then what else have we got? Temporal Rune, duration, Topologist, Tradition of the Rune, makes your scrolls better, that kind of thing. And instead of Mighty Blow, they get Mighty Spell. And I should say what these Mighty talents do, right? The Mighty talents mean that when you roll a damage effect of a certain type, so in this case from a spell, you always get 1 success. So it can be that you could roll no damage on an opponent. You've done a successful hit, you roll no damage. Whereas as a wizard you get better at spells, they get more powerful. So and one way to emulate this is to make sure you get 1 success, but then you can also spend vitality to lap your damage over onto their wounds. Normally damage takes out vitality first, and any left over is gone, and then it goes on to wounds. Whereas you can do this to basically you punch through. And then we've got the Wild Walker. Now, the Wild Walker I had problems with, right? And I think, like, the Verdance is a thing that I really love as an idea. This kind of, like... and it comes from, like... oh, man. I'm going to forget the name of the film right now. Hang on. Annihilation. So the film Annihilation. That film, and what was the hang on, the Fountain as well. So the Annihilation and the Fountain, two kind of sources of inspiration for me on this kind of idea of runaway nature just growing out of check, like another force from another world. And the idea that the World Mountain didn't have plants on it, or really many animals. It was just big fucking mountain with these discs growing out of it. And the dwarves were like, look what we built, this is cool. And they were like, yeah, but there's nothing here. And then, boom, their Verdance, which was like a green star, basically crashed into Ondrum. And then the Verdance just went and started growing everywhere. And Glorium is like super verdant and overgrown in jungles and all that kind of stuff. And then either way, it's a bit less, and then further away, it's less, right? Because other things like chop it up and stop it from growing and all that kind of thing. But the Wild Walker has a bit of the verdance inside them. And it means that they can tap into all the forms of nature, right? It's not some kind of medieval druid folklore type thing with standing stones. I mean, standing stones are cool anyway, right? So I might include a few standing stones. Thanks, money. But I wanted it to be more like mutation or an infestation, of nature that basically they've come to terms with, and it's like a power that they can use. So they can grow roots out of their arms, they can grow claws, and grow horns, and grow wings, that can do all kinds of stuff. But they get better as they go. And these are called their adaptations. And there are 6. Claw and Tooth, Fang and Venom, Hoof and Paw, Quill and Hive, Root and Thorn, and Scale and Shell. And it took me ages to get to the right place with this. This was the longest bit. The bit that took me the longest to it's actually why this took a while to come out. Because I was just banging my head on where does the Wild Walker sit between all the other archetypes, and how do its abilities manifest, right? So you get this ability called Adapt, which is an action 0 ability. Spend 2 vitality to use your adaptation ability, which has effect until the start of your next turn. Your arms might become the claws of a bear, your body could grow chitinous armor, or you might even grow wings and fly a short distance. Have fun with describing your physical changes as you use these abilities. So the idea is that you're not like a druid where you turn into a bear and you go rolling around as a bear. You're like the dude whose arm turns into a bear claw for a second, and then the next moment he's got like an alligator head, or then he's got a whipping tail. All that. It's like more piecemeal and sporadic. Bear with me a moment, everybody. Hello, sorry about that. My wife asking me if I wanted a chocolate pudding whilst I'm streaming. I'm not sure that's a very good idea, right? Anyway, so the Wild Walker took me a while to get in the right place, and I think it's in a good place. Excuse me for a moment, everybody. So we can try that out in our next playtest. And the talents then become animalistic expressions as well, like getting better at doing it. So things like shapeshifter, where your adaptation ability costs less vitality, that kind of thing. Because the other thing about heroic deeds is your we have enough for all of you, Millie. Your character won't ever get like 400 vitality, right? You're going to start with like 10 vitality, and you might end the game at level 12 with like 20 vitality or 25 vitality. What will happen is all of your powers will get cheaper. So it's not harder for you to die per se, but it's much easier for you to use all your cool shit. And you know, things like the Wild Walker can use the exploration ability Decaying Touch. The Shard of Verdance within you provides you the power to rot wood and wither plants with a simple touch. Gain a die when using survival or lore to bypass a natural hazard. So if you are come across a briar of dangerous thorns, you're going to be much more useful to your party in resolving that hazard during the exploration phase. What else we got in here? Spore Cloud, a reaction. If you get attacked after an attack against you has been resolved, every creature within Spray 2 takes a Strength 3 plus Archetype level poisoning effect versus evasion. So, you know, you'll become a dangerous creature. Another reaction, Take Root. After you are targeted, your leg muscles thicken and turn into huge vines and roots, gripping the ground with sudden terrifying force. After you are targeted by an effect that forces you to move, make a might check. Reduce the forced move by 5/1 for every success rolled. So you can like clamp yourself to the earth if someone tries to push you back, that kind of thing. Where are we? Oh, I think you can do element damage as well. So there's cool stuff about them. So skills, I've expanded the skills bit a little bit. Skills section a little bit, I should say. And there are some actions in the skill section, because not everyone can use them. You have to have that skill in order to use them. I know that might sound silly with things like jump, but we're not talking about can you jump a foot off the ground. We're talking about can you do a 6-foot standing jump, right? That kind of jump. So jump is a skill, move silently is a skill action. We've got a feint. If you've got the deceive skill, you can you make a feint, and in doing that you make the enemy out position themselves and you get to move them 1 square. Insight allows you to assess your enemy, and the games master must reveal one of the target's defense values if you make an insight check. So you can look at them and be like, oh, what's their toughness? And the GM has to say, oh, they look really tough, and although they're wearing shabby clothes, you can tell their skin underneath is rock hard. They've got 10 plus toughness, that kind of thing. Education, you've got your recall ability, so you can make a lore check on a target within line of sight. If successful, the games master must reveal one target's special ability or attack, your choice. So you can say special ability or attack. So you might just say, and when it says attack, they literally read off the stat line. So they've got a longsword, it's strength 7, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So it gives you like a knowledge, because your character obviously doesn't think, oh, a longsword is strength 7, but in the player's terms, that's the equivalent of what the character might understand from them wielding a longsword in that world. So it's kind of, you're crossing from player to character a little bit. And then craft, because you're in dungeons a lot, barricade. You work with party members to create an effective barricade in one square of the adventure location. The barricade acts as a barricade obstacle for enemies and has a success track equal to the number of successes rolled, plus the number of additional party members that assist in the construction of the barricade. But it has a noise of 5, which is bad. So yeah, that's quite. I thought that'd be quite a fun thing. It's just the kind of thing I can imagine players saying, "Oh, you said there's loads of tables and chairs in this room. Can we use them to make a barricade?" I was like, "Yeah, that's probably something characters want to do." Then we've got trappings, and everything is now split into 2 parts. So these are the changes. You've got common, and then something else, special, right? But with armor, it's military armor. So you've got common armor and you've got military armor. And I added in heavy furs. I've stripped back the number of shields. I was getting a bit carried away with shields. And I've stripped back the number of armor qualities. It was all too complicated. It was all too much. It's fine the way it works now. And we have a modifier to your evasion defense. Because although it doesn't affect your speed, because people were trained to wear armor. There's a whole argument about armor wasn't actually that heavy and it didn't stop you from doing all of these things. But I still think a guy not wearing armor can do a backflip easier than a guy wearing full plate. So there's some adjustments there. And protection. So I've taken a bit of complexity out. Sorry, I'm just pouring myself some more wine. Taken some complexity out and added some back in. So I've taken out special features, but damage types are now, there's now 6 damage types. And there's these bits in the middle here: crush, pierce, slash, element, yeah, and then there's cosmic and psychic. Those are the 6 types of damage. Then we've got common consumables and exotic consumables, common equipment and specialist equipment, common kits and rare kits, common weapons and military weapons. And I think the layout's just a bit cleaner and a bit nicer, especially for the kind of qualities sections for these, because I had the qualities kind of jammed in at the side. And I've made all the tables fill the page width so they're uniform. I had a bit of a weird thing going on with some of these tables, and it felt a little bit AD&D 2nd edition rather than clean, clear layout, which I wanted. So trappings is sorted. So combat, each of these, we've now got the pillars, right? And these are the different parts. So this is why I haven't gone into the others as much. And I realise it's 10:05, and I'm probably just going to get through the PDF and talk about play by post rules, but we'll see where it goes, right? So 4 pillars. So combat, obviously the more granular phase with more rules. The turns are shorter. There's more things going on. It's individual actions, right? And there's a little bit of stuff at the beginning just to give you some of the concepts, damage, conditions. A lot of deeds relate to the achievements of combat. This is to reflect the hard lessons taught at the end of 3 Feet of Steel, and the fact that heroic deeds is about defeating the forces of darkness and turning back foul creatures. The players and GM should be conscious of what deeds are in play and keep an eye out for each other if anyone might be missing out on advancing the tracks of any of their deeds. So just kind of acknowledging that combat's a big part of the game. It's not everything, as you'll see very soon. Morale. Each creature has a kind of morale section that talks about when they might run away if they're part of an adventure location. Okay, an encounter in an adventure location will have a morale section. Then you've got initiative, we've got the battlefield, so that's range, that's areas, that's line of sight, all that kind of stuff. Then we've got our actions, and then we've got different types of enemies. So give you a kind of all in all together there on the front. Space and time, initiative, combat sequence, grid and range. I've been using Incarnate to make these little battle maps with Dean Spencer artwork for the tokens that I used for the Red Hand of Doom. And in fact, this is one of the maps, the reworking of the first encounter map that I've used for this to explain line of sight, which hopefully I've explained. It's always one of those fiddly things that you're like, how am I writing this? Have I written it in a way that someone can interpret clearly? Is it something that's just hard to explain and you kind of have to do it once or twice to learn it? Line of sight's not a new thing, right? It's in loads of war games. People explain it in lots of different ways. So you have the benefit of someone coming to this game will probably have done something similar before, but you don't want to necessarily write it like that. So there's a lot of thoughts going into something that's not, you're building your own rule set from the ground up. You have to cover all the basics. So we talk about the battle map, we talk about terrain, we talk about light. So space and time, all good. Area of effect, we've got auras, we've got blasts, and we've got sprays. I've gone for a simple square effect on the grid because ultimately I'm not going to have huge radii for areas like 10 wide. You're not going to be doing a huge, big enough circle that you'd really cut off big corners. And also, it's just easier, right? An aura is aura 1 is one square in every direction around you. Blast 3 is something that's not touching your base. It's not adjacent to you and is a 3x3. And then spray 2 is adjacent to you and is a 2x2. So spray basically comes from your square, whereas a blast is something you drop further away. Simple. The only thing that I was thinking about was lines, but there's few lines. That's more a line of sight thing. The only spell that really does that is lightning bolt, and I'm not sure I'm too worried to add a whole nother thing in just for lightning bolts. So we talk about moving. There's a bit of an example down at the bottom, trying to talk through it all, saying where there's difficult terrain, and we've got a Minotaur named Geron who's very keen to go and kill this goblin, and how he's going to get there, and how actually it's going to take him the same number of squares, although he'll move more, same cost in movement and speed, but one route is longer than the other. Then we talk about general actions: attack, drop, equip. So they've kind of laid this out in a clearer way. Hang on a second. It is a different format to how I've done other things. So that's from the stream. What? Oh yeah, that map, that's from the stream. Or you're talking about something else? Anyway, in other sections there, I've got the talents and things in boxes. These are actions though, so it felt like a list more than separate boxes. So I've got this view here where we've got the kind of standard actions that everyone can do without having to have a skill to do it, unless it's the use action, which is to use a skill or trapping, right? But that's just to call out the fact that you have to go and look somewhere else. So you can go in here and go, oh, hang on, I haven't gone to the skill section or the trapping section, which has those details in. I've gone here and I can see use. Oh, you can't see it on the screen. Use, it says see skill or trapping. So you're like, I need to go and see what they can do. Then we've got risks. So we've got damage, taking damage, damage types, and protection. And then we've got enemies. So minions. These are our different types. Minions, standards, adversaries, villains, and cluster monsters. So minions are creatures with 1 wound. They have no vitality. So basically, if one hit gets through, they're going to die. At higher levels, minions and then standards won't count towards defeating opponent totals for certain deeds for advanced characters, right? So when you're like an 8th level Oathsworn, killing minions is pointless. So you need to kill them to get to the bad guy, but they don't rack up any deed tracks, right? So minions have 1 wound. Their abilities are generally designed to make them annoying. So things like if you miss them, they will shoot back at you. Or if you miss them in melee, they'll move out of range. That kind of thing. They're generally annoying. That doesn't necessarily mean they're like small. They might be a human, right? And this is kind of asymmetrical design between the heroes and the monsters, but for a reason and to create a certain play feel. And because heroes' vitality and wounds don't raise that high, you don't have this huge disparity where you're like, oh, I'm a 300 vitality character versus a 1 wound character, which feels kind of weird. And the damage levels don't get that high. It still stays within the kind of area. Standards have normal wounds as calculated for heroes, but still have no vitality. So they're going to take a couple of hits to kill, but they won't have as many special abilities, but they will have 1 or 2 kind of proactive. They are the standard, hence their name. Adversaries are bigger, tougher, and more powerful. They have wounds and vitality, right? And they will have abilities that allow them to use their vitality, and an ability that uses vitality is a better ability than one that doesn't. So they start to get more dangerous, and they're kind of like elites, right? But I didn't want to use elite because it's very tied to like wargaming, so I wanted to call them something a bit cool. And then you've got villains, and villains are badass. They get more than 1 activation in a round. They have boosted wounds and vitality and defenses, so they will have more than you, but they will have higher scores than you, but there are more of you, right? So if you take on a villain on its own, like we did with the Fallen Star Drake in one of the later episodes, episode 10 or so of our Red Hand of Doom, where they fought the dragon and it had 2 activations. That worked really well, and I thought that combat was so cool, and lots happened. So, Chothog nearly died, people were hurt, people were injured. They gave it a serious kicking, and it felt like just a really, really good battle. Learned a lot from that one. And then we have cluster monsters. So these are different, and it's more about how a group of monsters act together rather than any individual creature. And you have like a Hydra, and we did this in Red Hand of Doom as well. The Hydra has multiple heads, and it can grow more. So it has a body token and head tokens. And if the head tokens get too far away from the body token, they get an arbitrary movement towards it to replicate the fact that the heads can't actually move independent of the body. But a similar thing might be like tentacles of a creature, like a giant octopus or some kind of weird abomination, or undead creatures that are part of a hive mind, or in fact dark verdance creatures that are part of a hive mind, like cordyceps zombies kind of things. Cool. And then we've got health, so we talk about conditions. Old news, we've done that before. Exploration is here. We've got the overview. Danger level, it's important for your adventure locations. The map is broken into zones, which is typically a room or a corridor, but sometimes the game's master will split areas into more than one zone. You've got hazards, which are things that are like traps that directly harm or inflict conditions. Then you've got obstacles that get in your way, lock away treasure, or keep secrets from you, right? So the whole thing about the adventure location is we've got this 2-page exploration play sheet for the games master. And sorry, I'm sniffing a bit. I've suddenly got a bit of a blocked nose. This is kind of my big invention for dungeon exploration, where you have a turn tracker, and as you progress through the dungeon, as you take your 5-minute turns, you select the actions as a team that you want to do. You could say we want to advance. There are 4 of us, so we get 4 actions, and we want to advance 4 times. And you would then play out moving through 4 rooms or 4 zones. It might be 8 zones. But you wouldn't do anything in any of those rooms. You're literally just making your way through the dungeon. So you might do that when you're like getting out or moving through a previously explored area. You can, and there are various other actions you can take. But this shows you there's all of the zones in the dungeon location. Sorry, your turn tracker, what happens on each turn of the tracker. Now, these don't necessarily directly affect the party in that turn, but they become available to the Games Master or Herald to use from that turn. And encounters, it's often advised that they're in the next location that the party go to, right? So it's kind of like, you've unlocked encounter A, right? Cool. Now, if you advance into a room, we're going to have this encounter, and that's when combat would begin, for example. You've got rules on clearing the location, so each adventure location has like 2 or 3 conditions to clear the location, and that's important for deeds. So there are hero deeds for saying clear a certain number of locations to get a talent, but also a cleared location is safe to travel to. And down the line, I will add in rules for taking over locations and using them as your own, but that won't be in the main book. And then we've got the basic hazards and obstacles. So there's a load of example hazards and obstacles in the book, but each adventure location will have an extra one, which is like, ooh, this is a special one for this type, and this is the crumbling outpost here. Let me zoom in a bit. Crumbling outpost. So the basic hazard is falling rubble. Signs of the earthquake that shook this site are all around you. Chunks of the ceiling drop intermittently, shocking crashes of rubble punctuating your progress. So what happens here, this is a natural hazard type. You can use observe or might to avoid it. So you can either shrug off the rocks that fall on you, or you can spot them and get out of the way. You would roll those, and your successes would oppose the strength 7 roll versus your evasion, right? And any resultant successes against you would be crush damage on danger rating number of heroes. So there's also a scaling element with the adventure locations, that as the danger rating goes up, and danger rating gets increased through rumors, through the downtime section, where you add dangerous things to a location, but you also add cool treasure. The higher the danger rating, the more damage you do. So not everything is danger rating related, but some things are. Okay, so block doorway is the basic obstacle, and there are some deeds that are associated with this location. So deeds often have a requirement. So this one requires a light bearer, and it's consecrate. The goblins have made a mess of the forge dedicated to Ondrum. The shrine to a power of the Alliance of Light should not be left in such a manner. ... The party must take a rest action in the dedicated forge. If they do so, the light bearer recovers no vitality as part of the rest action. So basically, the party rests there, but the light bearer is busy doing stuff, so doesn't get to recover vitality. But in exchange, the light bearer may advance a deed. The party produces 1 less noise every turn after the forge has been consecrated. So it's like a hush. The divine energy, the reward from Ondrum for consecrating the altar there, is that guy helps you through the dungeon as you go. So trying to kind of have these kind of deeds associated with them. And there will be deeds for magic items and things as well. So we've got a little random items, random events table, where every turn the games master, when it comes up with random on the turn tracker R, the games master will look at the noise level, which is generated by your actions. So advancing, searching, all those things add noise. And once a random encounter occurs, the GM rolls the number of dice indicated by the noise tracker, and if any of them come up 11 or plus, those are counted as successes on a random events table, and the number of successes come up here. So 0 successes is a gust of wind, which could blow out your torch. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 is fungal bats. What you thought was a mushroom forest across the ceiling turns out to be a colony of fungal bats. Your disturbing presence causes a number of them equal to the danger rating +4 to attack. So then you look up fungal bats, which will actually be in the monster section of that adventure location, so you've got it all in one place. And you know you've got to fight. Well, most start at 2, so it might be, well, 1 technically, but you'll probably add something to it before you go there. So you might be fighting 6 fungal bats, which can probably poison you, right? So, and then you've got preset encounters, which are slightly different. It's not just a monster in the dark. There's some point to it, and morale, at their tactics and their morale. So what will they do to you? And if the giant spiders die, the spider swarms will flee. Yep, on this bottom one here, giant spider, thick webs. Oh, let me zoom in a bit more. Oh, that's a bit too much. Sorry about that. Here we go. Here we go. Thick webs and cocoon bodies are telltale signs of a spider infestation. Descending from a dark corner are 1 giant spider and 3 spider swarms. If the danger rating is 5+, there are 2 giant spiders. Tactics. The giant spiders will attempt to web torchbearers or rune wielders first. Morale. If the giant spiders die, the spider swarms will flee. Yeah. So each of these things, if the Doomseekers die, the Scroungers will take the opportunity to flee. Goblin Patrol. When more than half of their number are dead, make a composure roll or flee. So it's not just going to be out and out. And some of those will be if you destroy this item, if you have this item, if you've done this in this place. You know, so there'll be different conditions for ending a fight other than kill everybody. Let me get this to the right size. Nope. It was that one. There we go. Okay. Anyway, let's move on. So the encounter play sheet I think is really cool. It's going to be really helpful for the Games Master to run rather than have to go through a module and go, in this room there's that thing and in this room there's that thing, and I'll make my own map and I'll note where the things are and da 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 da. It's like, it's there. This is these 2 sheets, and then the monsters at the back. You could ignore all the fluff stuff and just use those to run the adventure, but there will be the fluff stuff as well to add that to it. There's set actions you can create, you can run, use, and they generate noise, but they do things like make you roll on their random treasure table and things like that, trying to add some of that old school adventuring into there. We talk about the map and how the Games Master should draw the map for the party as they explore, replicating their feeling of finding and revealing the rooms, etc. Talks a bit about dangers and noise and light, and then we've got a bunch of example hazards and then a bunch of example obstacles. Then we move on to journeys. Journeys, I really like journeys, and I've actually put a journey example in here which I wrote, which is a 2-page argument between players who are all named after cast members. Journeys, basically, hex crawls are cool, right? I love hexes, I love hex crawls, but they can go on, and not everyone is into hex crawls, and you might find that you're in a party where you're like, yeah, I want to get to the next thing and fight the thing. And getting lost is never fun, right? So in Heroic Deeds, journeys, you always get where you're going. It just might take you longer than you think. You pick your destination, you then define your trail, and you then develop your journey ratings. So this is the Verdant Wilds as it will stand in the book to begin with. There's going to be much more in the future about the whole of the world mountain. But Emberwatch is down here, which is the starting place. I've actually drawn a new hex for Emberwatch myself, which I might share a bit later. These rusty red hexes are locations that people have scouted or seen ruins out on the Verdant Wilds, and you're going to go and explore them and find treasures. And when you begin, you get a certain number of adventure locations to place on the map where you want to. And they're the ones that you can go to and select as a destination. So common sense would mean that you would probably put them closer so your journeys aren't so difficult. When you journey, you add up 3 values, the navigation, hardship and encounter rating for your journey, and you can only reduce those using certain skills, and you have to create a narrative around how your party work together to overcome the challenges. So let me zoom in on this example over here. So this is an example of defining your trail, right? Yeah, you can see pretty much all of that. So going from Emberwatch to this location, you've got the red route, which goes through 3 hexes of woods, then some hills, and then some woods, but with a river. Or the other option is through the woods and then the boggy forest. Sorry, these are forests, aren't they? And then boggy forest, and then into location. So red journey. Hang on. The red journey is the easier because you go along a river and you're not going through boggy forest, which is dangerous. Let me get back to the proper size. There we go. And you also roll for weather. So when you look at your journey ratings, excuse me. When you look at your journey ratings, you add up the total value for each hex of a type that you go through. You then add up whether there's a road anywhere, or a river, or you're crossing a river, which is bad, or you have a landmark. You then modify it for your party size, how many of you there are. So the more of you there are, the better you are at navigating, because you've got more people, more points of reference, but you're more likely to encounter someone. The less people you are, you're not going to encounter many people, but it's harder for you to survive because there's only a couple of you to do all the jobs in the camp. Excuse me, blimey. I don't think I've spoken continuously for an hour and a half in a while. And then weather will obviously have an effect. So you total all that up, and then you start to make your rolls to reduce these values. Only certain skills can be used, and that's here on the screen. But as you level up and get complete different deeds and new talents, you can get bonuses, or you can also get the ability to use different skills to roll. Then I've got a bit about encounters. There's a blank page here of loads of monster encounters. I'm actually condensing this down. Not sure why I left it in. I wanted to hint at the fact that there'll be random encounter tables. These will be paired up, because what I found when making these lists, and they're nearly done, there were very common things between, for example, grassland and plains, and lake and coast. So what I've done is I'm putting them in together into one table, but with 2 rolling roll columns. Yeah, one for each terrain type. So then you've got similar things but a different emphasis, or there'll be slightly more than either one of them has, and there'll be like a dragon at the bottom which won't appear in one of them, for example. Then I've got a bit about the local factions, just to add a bit of NPC excitement, and their beginning disposition. Now, dispositions aren't fully explained because that's going to be in the running the game and encounters section. But basically, encounters will be based on alignment, and this isn't lawful good to chaotic evil. This is from opposed, which is completely opposed, directly opposite to aligned. And there are 3 groups of 3 types of alignment, and you move along a track. You can only move people a certain number of steps to stop things like, oh, we're going into the den of the dragon, and I'm a bard, I'll roll a natural 20 and I charm the dragon and shag it, and then we're all fine. Stupid things like that happening because people don't understand the rules properly. I mean, they can do that if they want to have fun, right? But this isn't that kind of game. So we've got that. And then I got my journey example. Don't worry, I'm not going to read it all out right now. But that is fun. I had fun writing that and showed it to the guys, and they enjoyed reading it. But it goes all the way from the beginning of a journey and picking the trail to, we've had an encounter on the road and we move into the party moves into combat, right? So it's a full explanation. Hopefully it helps. But the idea is that as you say, I'm going to use law to help us overcome hardship, you say, how? And they go, oh, well, I know how the plants of this area grow, or I know about certain trees, the best way to gather firewood, all these kinds of things that you can role play and expand the narrative. And I always say that the journeys in Conan, Krull, and Willow exemplify the heroic deeds journey, where you see a montage of the heroes travelling across the countryside. You get a scene where they're sitting at a fire and they're talking about stuff, or something happens, and then you see the rest of their journey and they arrive at their location. And it's that kind of thing that I want to replicate with journeys, and the running the game section will be explicitly talking in that kind of language, saying it's like watching one of those films. And these bits are where you can have them sort of get to know each other and have jokes and do that kind of stuff. And you should role play those moments and enjoy it. Yeah, because it's good fun. It's not all about the fighting. It's not all about crawling through a deadly dungeon. And then downtime, I need to flesh out a bit more with rumours at the moment, but we've got the major NPCs and buildings for Emberwatch. And we've got the list of downtime actions and what they do for Emberwatch. There's some stuff on influence. There's some stuff on rumours. I'm working on the rumours right now. And it's really good fun. And you kind of add a rumour to a... Oh, hang on. Let me see if I can find... when you go back to Emberwatch, you can do activities that generate rumours, such as carousing. So you go to the tavern. It doesn't have a tavern, but the militia bunkhouse serves a mean ale, and everyone in the outpost needs to unwind every now and then. Yes, now. Either roll once on a rumour table of your choice, or increase your perform skill by 1, max rank 3. So you can only get up to a certain level by doing downtime actions, right? But you can roll on the rumour table. A rumour table might allow you to add a magic item to a location, but there'll be a cost. When you add a rumour to a location, the danger level goes up by 1, and also something interesting can happen. So one scouting rumour is steam vents. The scouts who got near their eventual location saw great cracks in the ground and steam coming out of them. And this must be the magic of Zadumir breaching this layer, this realm. And Zadumir is the bottom layer of Ondrum, which is basically hell. There's a big giant fire escape surrounding a giant the Mechanolith, which is a fortress that surrounds the entire base of the World Mountain. And a dwarven army mans the wall, and when they die, their spirits go into giant mecho suits that then carry on the battle, and they're fighting off demons and devils and monsters and dragons and all kinds of shit down there. So that magic leaking up here, dangerous. And what that means is every creature in the level gets element fire resistance of element protection of 1. Every hero every turn has to make a might roll or take 1 point of element damage. Something like that. But down there you have the ability, and the GM has to place obstacles, which are clusters of rubies. And if you spend time overcoming those obstacles, you get to take rubies back with you that are super precious. So things like that, there'll be a downside but an upside, and it's like, oh, where are we gonna add that one? Well, we know that the crumbling outpost is full of goblins. Okay, We've seen the shattered temple, and we know we're not sure what's in there. But over in this one, where there's the lost beacon, we know that's undead creatures. Do we want to have fire undead creatures? Is that going to be good? You can start to, like, the party at the table can. It's up to them which rumours go. They don't get to roll the rumours. Or they get to roll the rumours. They get to pick the rumours, I should say. So the rumour is random, but they then get to place it. As if they stack them all in one location. I think, yeah, we'll go there and get all the magic items and all the rubies. They're also going to have a really tough time surviving. So there's this kind of dual element. And then I've got a little example bestiary in there. Just of a couple of things. Just if people wanted to fight some monsters, just to explore it. So that's heroic deeds. Let me switch back over to this view. Cool. That was a little bit longer than I thought. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to talk much, but there's actually been a lot that I've put into the PDF, and there hasn't been an opportunity for me to just go through it and talk through what's different, what's new, how I've changed it, how I'm thinking about it, some of the design choices that go into the game, which are tricky when you're making it on your own. But I think I'm looking forward to actually just playing it now through the whole, because I've done loads of solo play testing, rolling lots of dice, thinking through steps, balancing things out. And what I actually want to do now is do a play test through the whole thing with the party. New characters, though, unfortunately, because I've changed the deeds, I've changed the talents. Thanks, Melly. Change the deeds, change the talents. I've got all the pillars now. It's ready to play. And I think it will be super cool to do that. Now, what we're going to do as well is we're going to do our play by post on the Discord. So, hang on, bear with me 1 second. So we've got the Heroes of Emberwatch, right, which is a channel now on our patron only section on the Discord. So we've got patrons chat, patrons poll, and Heroes of Emberwatch, and we already have. Can I get this on the screen? Let's switch back over to that, and then no, let's change that to that. Ooh, here we go. Okay. Let's maybe shrink it down, shall we? Here we go. Oh, that'll do. That'll do for now. So, what we have... So, I'm in a weird mood today. So what we have is Adventurers Wanted, where we have... Oh, this is annoying. You know what? Let's do this. Let's bring that across here. Just to talk through what's going on the Discord, and then I will shrink me down and bring me to the front and bring me in here. Hello. So what we've got is we've got two things in here so far. We've got Adventurers Wanted and we've got the Verdant Wilds. The Verdant Wilds, this is the overview, right, which is probably going to be the downtime channel, right? So we need to have and I've got a doc here. So we need to have a downtime would help. You can probably hear my lovely mechanical keyboard tapping away. I love it. It's retro. So we're going to have a downtime channel where everyone will do downtime actions. We will place rumours and we'll open adventure locations. Hopefully that's not too loud for the stream. Then we're going to have we're going to have an exploration. I say channel, but I might be using the wrong word, but you know what I mean. We're going to have multiple exploration channels, one per adventure location, because we may get to a stage, probably not in the first instance, we may get to a stage where someone says, well, I want to go over there, and someone says, well, I want to go over there. So we're going to have 3 adventure locations to begin with. We're going to have the crumbling outpost. We're going to have the lost beacon, because that's not in the book. This is an extra juicy one that I'm coming up with for an undead option. And then I was thinking about this the other day. Bear with me a second. Where's my book? My little book. So, in here, I had... Oh, yeah. Here we go. So, we were going to have the Overgrown Forge, which Richard, aka Eldath, has done a write-up for. Here we go. So I've got some weird people suddenly messaging me on Discord. Eldath, aka Richard, there you go, has helped me out doing some writing for that adventure location, which is pretty cool. So the crumbling outpost is a goblin infested. So there's certain things that you will know about each adventure location before you go to it. Undead taint, and then the overgrown forge is insectoid hive. Right. So the crumbling outpost is a dome-like structure that has fallen in and has been seen from afar by Tereth, who sits atop. No, I don't want that. I don't want that. What are you doing to me? Here we go. Let's just go. Bop. Yeah. So I will ask the players where they want to put them. Right. So the first thing will be, I think I've said in here, 3 adventure locations will be identified at first, enabling you to travel there. So I will put in here, these 3 adventure locations will be created. Let's vote on where you want them. And at which point I will modify this image so they're numbered. Right? And it might be suggestive, and I might number the nearest ones in a hex count, 1, 2, 3. But I might just go left to right. Who knows? Depends on how I'm feeling. Number them all and say, right, which, and give the very brief description. Right, it'll be a little bit more than this, right? But then each of those will have their own exploration channel, because someone will go out there, will do some exploration of that location in that channel specifically, and then they might go, right, we're going to leave, we're going to journey back, right? At which point that exploration channel stays there, so we can remember everything that happened, but a different party might come back later, right? So it allows to keep the crumbling outpost as its own channel for exploration. We're going to have an out of character channel, just for any kind of chat around the topics. Game, yeah, because I don't want out of character chat in these channels. I want it to be specific. Combat, I've got a big question mark over at the moment. I've got a few thoughts and I need to circle back round on how I think I'm going to do combat. But that might be that I then arrange a separate session to do a combat. That could slow things down. So we've got, and then the other thing was journeys. And I think I'm going to have one journey channel, but I think you can do threads one. And journeys will only be going on for a short amount of time between the bigger chunks of stuff, right? So we will be able to threads to subdivide potentially. Okay. We've got the Heroes Wanted channel for character creation. So if anyone joins up and they want to get on board with that, that's cool. Can we do this? Is this going to be nice? No, it's not going to be nice. Screw you. Okay. Now, the issue becomes turns, right? Or days. Because, let's say, for some bizarre reason, there are 5 players, and one of them says, oh no, I want to stay and do a downtime action while they go off and explore this other place. We would then have to figure out how long their journey takes, and then give... I suppose we could do this. It wouldn't be the end of the world. It's just going to be a bit tricky. And I'm going to have to keep a calendar. Days since start, right? Days since launch. Days since... days adventuring. There we go. Days adventuring, right? So we have a days adventuring value that will always go up. And as we go, we'll say, okay, you have a downtime action. Please, in the downtime channel, what downtime action we want to do, that's going to take you 5 days. So it's going to be asynchronous. That's going to take you 5 days. I will contact you once 5 days activity has happened in every channel. Then you get to have another go, right? We may say, oh, well, we know they're going to be away for at least 10 days, so you could get 2 done. That kind of thing, right? And I think there'll be a small enough number of people so far that we won't need to stipulate that to begin with. But if we were to get more patrons, and if anybody else wants to sign up as a paid patron and join the Play by Post game that I will be starting very soon. In fact, I think maybe tonight I might be asking the party which location they want to place where, to show it kicking off, because I'm worried that they may be thinking that it's not going to happen, but it is going to happen. And I think it's actually going to be an interesting exploration of the game to play it in this way and see how it handles this kind of interaction. So I'll be keeping a track of the days, and I'll be sharing with patrons and then posting on the Patreon how the campaign is going and who's doing what. And it would be great if it got to a stage, it'd be complicated but great, if we got to a stage where there were like 2 or 3 adventuring parties traveling around doing different things, and they come back at the same time and they meet up and they talk about it, and then maybe some of them go, oh, hang on, we want to go and do this one with undead. There's 2 light bearers and a couple of Oathsworn. We're going to go and tank that one. And the Battle Ragers and the Rune Wielders are going to go and do this other one. You know, or something like that. It might be interesting. I hope it gets interesting. It'll be fun to and I think this will be one of the things that I'm doing in the background all the time in 2025. So we'll start tonight. Tonight? Yeah, why not? We'll start tonight. And we'll go for the rest of the year. And then in 2025, one of my jobs on the Mondays, I don't work Mondays anymore. It's now Garblag Day. So what I will be doing is part of the Play by Post prep and planning and writing on a Monday in the mornings. Well, I'm going to alternate. One half of the day will be Heroic Deeds and Play by Post, and the other half of the day will be potentially preparing for the stream, the campaign, whether I'm doing Electric State or I'm doing the Heroic Deeds campaign that we're going to be doing. So it's all funneling into the same engine, and I'm still pretty sure March, the book should be out. But we'll see. If I need to delay it any further, you know that it's not a case of it's not happening. It's just a case of one man with a busy job and a busy family life and lots going on, trying to do his best. But we're getting there. You can see we're getting there. And you never know. I may even put like a comment about this play-by-post stuff in the book. I may just share it as a PDF afterwards to help, help people who want to do it remotely, right? In that way. So I think it could be fun. So with the kind of outlining the channels we're going to use there and the kind of ongoing calendar or the day's adventuring, DA, whatever, I'm gonna keep a track, and hopefully it'll be fun. Okay, so if you are a patron and you're paid and you want to join up, just come on the Discord and just say you want to join up. If you're a lurker, if you're a free patron, there's about 100 of you, but that's cool. I know what it's like these days. Money is tight and it's difficult, but if you did want to join in and you did want to play Heroic Deeds play by post, then join as a paid patron and you can join in that fun, which will be kicking off very soon. I did say earlier in the year that it would be towards the end of the year, so I think I'm okay. Cool. Okay, so that is everything Heroic Deeds I wanted to talk about tonight. I mean, I could talk about Heroic Deeds forever, and you would all run away screaming, and I would not blame you. That would be the right thing to do. But I think, you know what, I'm not going to talk about Electric State now. It's, well, maybe 5 minutes. I'm mainly as a GM. I'm not going to talk about our campaign so much. I don't want to do any spoilers. But I was thinking about Electric State, and it's a bit of a conundrum for me as a game master. I really like it. I really like the artwork. The rules are very simple, clean. You know what you're getting out of it. It's got that narrative element, which is fun, but tricky for people on their first go. It's not a game I'd recommend for a one-shot, right? It's about that journey and those stops. We're doing our first stop. We're halfway through it. There'll be another session at this stop, and then they'll go on to another one. But it's an interesting world where I think because they have access to Simon Stallenhag, or whatever his name is, I forget right now, apologies. Beautiful artwork, amazing artwork. It's this kind of weird conundrum where it's a really cool looking setting. It's really interesting. The Neurocasters, the Slowpocalypse, all that stuff, really cool. It's just a weird place between modern, alternate, Warzone, not Warzone, to kind of fit into as a GM and expand a story around. Because it's not an active Warzone, although there's clashes and things going on. But that's kind of the closest thing I can kind of imagine or see on the news or compare to say, this is what it must feel like in the Electric State. There's this constant threat. There's the Civil War, there's militias. Nothing quite works. It's all falling apart. But in a kind of laid back, alt 90s way. It's really cool. And I'm seeing it actually as a games mastering challenge to myself to try and run this journey, and I like the idea. It's a different kind of, the different take on journeys, the journey being their campaign. That's cool. I mean, it's a little railroady in that you decide the stops and then they arrive at the stops, and whether they like it or not, right? They don't go, we're going to go that way instead of that way. You go 5 days later, you stop at a thing. Or you get a flat or your engine conks out, that kind of thing, which is fine because that's the agreement at the beginning, right? Yeah, we're all. This is the game, so you lean into it. But it's just an interesting. It's a tricky space to fill. Yeah, I don't know how else to explain it. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm also really enjoying how the players are playing their characters already, and we're only one session in. Fantastic. Really expressive and vital, and you can see their different characters, and I think it's really good. So I'm super happy as a games master that I'm challenging myself to a different kind of experience and having a really good time doing it, even though I feel slightly unsure about it as I'm going. But that's that's just part of being a games master, I suppose. It's just that world of a lot of the book makes it look like post-apocalyptic, but it's not actually post-apocalyptic. It says, oh yeah, there's people living their lives and TV's running and all this kind of stuff, but like people are going into the neurocasters and whole areas are falling apart, and you're like, okay, I've just got to get my head around this concept a little bit more and how it would actually turn into a working world as they're traveling through it. So that's I think that's kind of more where my mind's going with that. Cool. Okay. So anyway, lots of talking about heroic deeds as usual, and hopefully people won't begrudge me that too much, since it is filling my mind these days as well, apart from the small electric state corner. So lots going on there. I just wanted to go through the changes that had been made and how it was different to the previous document, which I don't think I've done in quite a complete manner before. I've talked about things individually in different places on the Discord, on Facebook and Blue Sky. Previously I'm on Blue Sky. Come and join me on Blue Sky. So I've talked about the different parts individually, but I haven't gone through the PDF and gone, this is new, that's new, this is new. So I think that was good to go through. Talk about the play-by-post and how we're going to kick it off and how we're going to go. I'm going to do a little blurb probably in the Heroes. No, probably just be a separate post for some rules kind of things. And then get that going. Maybe start tonight, but actually start the actual journeys and things, within the next week, so we can get it done at the beginning of December and start it off. So that'll be cool. And next week, on the Garblag Games channel, so although this is streaming through YouTube onto Patreon, we're only visible to patrons, paid or not paid. These patron streams, will be to all the people, all free patrons as well, right? Hopefully showing you what wonders there are for those who come a bit further into the world of Garblag Games. But I want to be able to share a bit more with some more patron streams for you guys. And next Tuesday we'll have the next episode of Electric State, which is a Missing Boy Part 2. It's not the missing boy that was missing in the first episode that's really the missing boy. Anyway, spoilers. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to go on the Discord now, if I can figure it out, and play FTL's wonderful Dungeon Master game from my youth, which is a game that I love and I could play forever, whenever. And go on the Discord and play that game. And if anyone wants to come and chat for a bit while I'm in the Hobbit's Armpit, I think it's called, then come and join me. If not, I'll see you next time on Garblag Games. Thank you very much for joining me, and happy gaming.